I'm Jane Alalibo, and I'm here to teach you on the topic National Values Part 2, Self-Reliance. Still in the theme, our values. In our previous lessons, we learned about national values, Part 1, and in that lesson, we learned about the values honesty and cooperation. On the lesson today, we'll be looking at the national value self-reliance. At the end of the lesson, I expect that you'll be able to explain the meaning of self-reliance, identify the importance of self-reliance, and identify the platforms for discovering one's natural talents. So while we go on in the lesson, I want you to look out for these things which we've stated because they are the major aim or objective of the study today. Now into our lesson. We're going to do a brief recap on what values are. In our previous lesson, we learned that values refer to those principles, beliefs, standards that we cherish and hold dearly. And we are also expected to live up to these standards. That means we're supposed to do these things, whatever we state our values. For example, we're learning about self-reliance today. We are expected to be self-reliant because what? That is one of our values. Just as we are expected to be honest and we are expected to cooperate, we should live up to our values. They are not just there for fancy. We should always put them into practice. Now, we also learned that we have our personal values and societal values as well. As a nation, Nigeria, we have our values that we hold dearly, things that are expected of every citizen. And some of these values, like I mentioned earlier, are honesty, cooperation, and self-reliance. We studied about honesty and cooperation extensively in our previous lesson. And today, we're going to look at self-reliance. Now, what is self-reliance? It's very simple. Self refers to a person. When you talk about self, you're talking about your own self, that is you. And reliance is from the word rely. Rely means to depend on someone or to depend on something. Now, self-reliance. Self-reliance is one's ability to depend on oneself. That is your ability to depend on yourself. You do things by yourself and make decisions for yourself. You don't depend on anyone else. As young people, as children, we depend on our parents for everything. We depend on them for food, for shelter, for clothing. But a self-reliant person doesn't depend on anyone. Rather, a self-reliant person is able to take care of himself. It means being able to take care of oneself without help from anyone, being in charge of your own affairs. As young children, we can't make decisions for ourselves just the way we like. Most of the time, we have to consult our parents, we have to ask our parents before we decide to do different things. But that is not self-reliance. As children, it is expected that you depend on your parents. But there is a stage you get to, there is an age you get to, that it is expected that you depend on yourself. Before we get to that stage in life, of course, we're going to learn about it now, so then it doesn't become confusing. We've learned what self-reliance is. How do you know a person is self-reliant? What are the attributes and features of self-reliance? We have here 8 attributes of self-reliance. Note that these are not all the attributes of self-reliance. There are more, but we're going to study these few today. And after we study these, I'm sure you'll be able to identify other features and attributes of self-reliance whenever you come across them. Now, let's read the 8 attributes which you have listed together. Creativity, skillfulness, dedication, diligence, excellence, self-confidence, risk-taking, and independence. These are attributes of self-reliance, and we're going to look at them one by one. The first, creativity. Creativity is from the word create. And what does create mean? Create means to make something new, to invent something. Just like we learn in the Bible, we learn that God created man. God made man. He molded man. He formed man. So creativity has to do with coming up with new ideas, creating new things, thinking of new things and better ways of doing one's work. Being creative is not drawing the normal way. For example, everybody knows how to draw a circle like this. But creativity could involve coming up with a new way to draw a circle, a new way to do something that other people have done. Let's take a look at this handbag over here. Our conventional handbags, which we know usually have materials like leather material or some other type of material, but someone thought that we could use the Ankara material to make a bag, and the person actually did it, and it looks good, right? So this is creativity, thinking of new ways and better ways to do something. And every self-reliant person must have this quality or must have these attributes in order to be successful. Now we've talked about creativity. You might wonder, what should you be creative with? We're going to learn about that in the next attributes. Skillfulness. What is skillfulness? Skillfulness is being skilled at something, knowing how to do something very, very well. Now, when it's a skill, you could say you learned it from someone. Maybe you went and you learned how to sew. Maybe you went somewhere and you learned carpentry. That is a skill that you have acquired. And you must be very, very good at it for you to say you are skillful at this particular thing. So an example of a skill is dressmaking. It could be hair making. It could be painting. All these things that people know how to do, they can be called skills. People learn how to do them. Now, to be self-reliant, you need to have something that you know how to do that people will pay you for. We said self-reliance is depending on yourself, right? That is, you pay your bills, you can feed yourself, you can clothe yourself, you can do everything for yourself. Now, in order to do that, you need money, right? How do you get money? That is where skillfulness comes in. You have to be able to do something that people are going to pay you for. I'm sure you pay people to sew your dresses for you, like we have over here. This lady is sewing this dress, and someone is definitely going to pay her for her service. And from the money she receives from people for this service she offers, she could definitely take care of herself. So one very important attribute of self-reliance is skillfulness. Having known a skill, you now apply creativity. Because you may not be the only one that has that skill. There are so many seamstresses around. There are so many carpenters around. But when you're creative with your skill, you're very creative with your work, people will be able to patronize you. They will come and get your product. And of course, they will pay for it. Another attribute of self-reliance is dedication. What is dedication? Dedication is commitment to one's work. You don't get distracted easily. You are committed to this thing. You do it every day. You take it seriously. You don't joke around with it. That is dedication. And when you have a skill, you have a job, for it to be successful, for it to pay you well, you have to be dedicated to that job. If you come one day and you do your work haphazardly, you do your work anyhow, you decide not to go to work the next day, and the other day you go to work, you handle your work carelessly, you won't be able to make money. People will not even want to patronize you. But when you're dedicated to your work, you invest your time and your resources into it, then you're definitely going to be perfect at your job, and people will come to patronize you. One very important attribute of self-reliance is dedication. The next attribute which we're going to be looking at is diligence. What is diligence? Diligence can be seen as being hardworking, being industrious, That is diligent. You're hardworking. You focus on your job. Whatever it is, you do. And you do not just do it anyhow. You do it carefully and thoroughly. That is a diligent person. A person who pays close attention to his or her work. You don't handle it shabbily or leave it to go bad. Diligence also involves consistency. That is, you come today, you do your job, you come the next day, you keep on working. You don't decide to be lazy sometimes and then other times you want to work. No, that is not diligent. It is consistency, doing a particular work at the right time and doing it very, very well. That is one attribute of self-reliance. Another attribute of self-reliance is excellence. What is excellence? Excellence is simply being outstanding in one's work. That is doing it the best way possible you could do it. In our schools, we're graded after we've written our exams. For those who score like 70 or 75 and above, they are given A. And A is an excellent grade. That means they have done very well. They have put in their best. Excellence is 100%. You don't leave anything out. You do it to the best of your ability. You don't perform averagely or poorly. Excellence is being outstanding, being the best. And a self-reliant person is one who puts his best into his work and produces quality results, the best results possible. And it's not just about producing quality results at one point. It also involves maintaining that standard of quality. You do a good job today. You don't decide to do a shabby job tomorrow. No, you maintain that standard. And when you perform excellently in your work, people will definitely come to you. Why? Everybody wants the best. I want to wear the best clothes. I want to wear the best dresses. I will go to the best seamstress. I know the person who performs excellently in her job. And you see that these attributes, they follow each other. You have a skill, you are creative with it, you are diligent, you are dedicated to that job. The end result is excellence. So all these are attributes of self-reliance. The next attribute we'll be learning about today is self-confidence. A self-reliant person is one who believes in his or her abilities and capabilities. You believe you can achieve whatever it is you set out to achieve. A lot of times, maybe you see that someone is doing something better than you, begin to feel discouraged. No, that is not an attribute of self-reliance. You have to be confident in your own work. I mean, if you're not confident in what you've done, who will be confident in it? Nobody will be able to patronize you. But when you do something very well, excellently, you can be very, very confident of yourself. Believe that you are better than the rest. You stand out. Nobody is better than you. That is what we should always have at the back of our minds, and that is self-confidence. The next attribute of self-reliance we're looking at today is risk-taking. This is something that is unavoidable in business. There must be risks. That is chances that what you have indulged in or that business you have started may work or not work. Maybe you have a 50% chance that this thing will work and a 50% chance that it will not work. Now, in every business, in everything that people do, there is always a risk. But it depends on how much you are able to put in all your effort to avert or avoid that risk. For instance, you want to make something. Maybe you want to bake a cake. You know how to bake a cake, but you're not sure. You can't be very, very sure how the cake is going to come out. So you go out and you spend your money to bake your cakes. You're not sure that this cake is going to taste very nice, but you still go ahead and do it. There is a risk involved. Just in case your cake doesn't taste nice, people will not buy it, and you've already lost the money you used to acquire the ingredients, right? That is risk. But A self-reliant person is one who is willing to take these risks. No matter how risky a particular thing is, they are willing to try it. You can only take risks when you are what? Confident. Even if there are chances that this thing may not work or this thing may not come out well, you believe in yourself that you can make it work. Like I said before, these attributes, they follow each other. When you are self-confident, you can take risk. If you don't have the attributes of self-confidence, you may not be able to take risk. And that is something you must meet. It is unavoidable in business. So as a self-reliant person, you should be willing to take risks at all times. Embark on new projects no matter what the risk is, believing that you will definitely be able to avoid it. And the last attribute of self-reliance, which we'll be learning about today, is independence. If you remember my definition of self-reliance, we said self-reliance is depending on oneself. You are not dependent on anyone. So the word we can use to explain that is what? Independence. We have dependence. That is, you're depending on someone. When you are not depending on someone, then it is independence. Now, this is the heart of self-reliance. This is all self-reliance is about. It's like the biggest attribute. A self-reliant person does not depend on anyone. A self-reliant person takes care of his own needs and makes decisions for himself. So until you have all or most of these attributes, then you are not self-reliant. And like I said, a time comes in life where you must be self-reliant. You cannot depend on your parents for everything all days of your life. A time comes, it is expected that you become self-reliant. So we should try our best to imbibe all of these attributes. Now, we've been talking about self-reliance, and we mentioned skillfulness. That is having a skill. If you don't have a skill, you don't have anything you do that gives you money, you really can't be self-reliant. You will always have to ask people for things. But then you need that thing that you can do by yourself, for which people can pay you or patronize you. Which brings us to the next part of our study, talents and skills. We've been mentioning skills, and on the board here we have an accurate definition of a skill. A skill is an ability a person acquires. What is ability? Being able to do something. For example, I know how to make hair. I know how to plait people's hair. That's an ability. I know how to do it. Or a skill is an ability a person acquires, or something a person learns how to do. Now, I was not born knowing how to make hair. I had to learn it from someone. That is a skill. Something that you learn how to do proficiently. Something you learn how to do very, very well. Now, what are talents? A talent is something that a person knows how to do naturally. You did not have to learn it. It just came with you. It is innate. And this word means inborn. That is, we're born with it. Talents are also described as gifts that God gives us. That is, before God even sends you to your mother's womb, He puts that gift in you, that ability. Now, the difference between talents and skills is that skills are acquired. You learn how to do them. We can see this picture here. These two girls are learning how to sew from a man. You learn how to do it. I don't think anybody was born knowing how to sew. You have to see how it is done and learn how it is done. While talent is something you just know how to do. For example, singing. I don't think anybody was taught how to sing. You just grew up, and since you could talk, you also know how to sing. Some people are very, very good at singing. They are just blessed with it. It is their talent, like we have here. Another example of a talent is painting. Some people are born and they just know how to draw. They did not learn it from anywhere. They know how to draw and they know how to paint. While some other people still learn how to draw and paint. There are some talents that we can still learn and acquire as skills. But know that the major difference between talents and skills is that talents are inborn while skills are learned. We learn how to do them, we acquire the skill. Why are we talking about talents and skills? You need to know how to do something for which people will pay you. You always go to the hairdresser to make your hair. Why? Because they can do it for you and you pay for their service. Now, we may be wondering, how can I learn a skill, or how do I know I have a particular talent? Maybe you don't know what it is, you know how to do best. Now, there are different platforms upon which you can identify our talents or develop interest in a particular skill. These platforms include the home, school, competitions, the press, social education, and exhibitions. All these are platforms through which we can identify our talents and skills. How is the home a platform for identification of talent and skills? Now, the first society a child gets acquainted with is the home. The first set of people you know are your parents, your siblings, your aunties, before you even go out to know your neighbors, and then you go to school to know your friends. So the first society any person needs is the home, the family. This is why the home and the family is the first platform for identifying talents and skills. As you remember, I said talents are things that are inborn. You just know how to do them. For example, you know how to sing in your home while you're doing your chores or doing any other thing. You're taking your bath in the bathroom. You just sing. Now, parents and other family members can always help young people in identifying their skills and talent. That is, you watch them closely to identify the things that you think they know how to do best. The home is the first platform. And it is not enough to see that, oh, this person knows how to sing very well, this person knows how to dance very well, this person knows how to draw very well. Parents and other family members are encouraged to guide young people towards the path of developing talents or bettering their talents, learning how to do it better. Because when you have a talent and you don't make use of it, you don't use it, it's just going to sit in you. And if there are better ways of doing that thing, because you don't practice it at all, you will not know how to do it. So the home is a platform through which we can identify our skills and talents. Another platform is our school. After the home, the next place to get acquainted with is the school. Now, through participation in extracurricular activities that we have in school, like sports, drama, music, writing, debate, and skill acquisitions, we can identify our talents and skills. Even if nobody has come to tell you that, I think you can sing very well, I think you can dance very well, you should develop in that area. What is it you like to do? In your schools, you have different clubs. Do you like to sing? I just want to be a part of this thing. I just want to be a part of this club or that club. If you join and you excel at it, then there is a great possibility that that is your talent. And that is why we also have our teachers who are trained these days to help us in identifying our talents and skills and also help us in developing them. Another way or platform through which we can identify our skills and talents are competitions. Now, this is a very effective way of identifying your talent. A lot of times, competitions are not for people to beat themselves. Rather, it's to see how well you know how to do something. For example, people will run. It's not like they are running to beat themselves out of the competition, but they just want to see how well a particular person can do a particular thing. Now, competitions can help us to identify our skills and talents. How? It gives you room to showcase whatever it is you know how to do very, very well. And very importantly, it also makes you to perfect that particular thing that you know how to do very well. Because if you are told to go into a competition, of course you would want to win. And in order to win, you have to practice that thing constantly so that you can be very good at it, so that you can come out the best at it. So competitions are one way or platform through which we can identify our skills and talents. Another platform is the press. Now, when we say the press, we refer to the media, the mass media, the newspapers, the radios, and the televisions, and even today, the internet. The press can help to identify people with different skills and talents. How? They locate them. Maybe you find out that there's someone in one creek or one place that knows how to play the flute very well. They could decide to bring this person and show the person doing this particular thing on air. And you see, that way they've been able to help that person develop his or her talent and also gain patronage. If it's something people can patronize you for, they will actually patronize you, because the press has helped to showcase or giving that person a platform to exhibit whatever it is they know how to do, their talent or skill. Another platform is social education. Now, through social education, different bodies, it could be the government, they can gather people together and educate them on how to identify their skills, and also go further as to teaching them how to develop these talents and skills. We have some organizations that even go as far as gathering people together to teach them a particular skill. For example, they bring people together to teach them how to use computers or how to fix computers. That is social education. It doesn't have to be in a school setting. It could just be a gathering where young people are brought together to learn how to identify talents and skills and also develop them. And the last platform through which we can identify talent and skills are exhibitions. Now, what are exhibitions? It's simply a gathering where people are allowed to show what they have been able to do with their hands. Whatever they've been able to create, events, something they've done, they are allowed to showcase these things for others to come and see. We have things like that in our schools all the time, or in communities, different gatherings. People showcase things that they have done. That is one way we can identify our skills and talents and also develop them. Because when people come around to see what you know how to do very well, you would want to develop yourself better to do that thing right, so that you can offer that service to them. Exhibitions are one way through which people can identify and also develop their talents and skills. Now, we have learned a lot on self-reliance. Today, we're going to do a summary of everything which we learned. What did we say self-reliance was? Self-reliance is simply depending on oneself, your ability to depend on yourself, take care of yourself, provide for yourself. Some of the attributes of self-reliance which we learned are skillfulness, creativity, diligence, and dedication. All of these attributes are what make a self-reliant person. Now, some of the ways or platforms through which we can identify our skills and talents are the home, the school, through competitions, and through social education. That is all for our lesson on national values, looking at the value self-reliance. As usual, we're going to have a brief test to see how much we have learned today. And we have just one question in our test. Which of these is an attribute of self-reliance? A. Dependence. B. Laziness. C. Skillfulness. And D. Mediocrity. The correct answer is C. Skillfulness. Of course, we know dependence is not an attribute of self-reliance. In fact, it's the opposite of self-reliance. Laziness is not an attribute of self-reliance. And mediocrity is not an attribute of self-reliance. The correct answer is C. This brings us to the end of our lesson on National Values Part 2, Self-Reliance. Thank you and bye.